The Eagles head to LA as 3-point road favorites, battling against a Rams team that is getting healthy. Unlike many of the Eagles' previous games, Vegas is expecting this game to finish within one possession. As a result, we should see a heavier workload for the Eagles starters, giving us value on some numbers. Having said that, today's first bet is going to be Saquon Barkley over 20.5 rushing attempts. The Eagles rank first in run rate in the NFL, and we've talked about on this podcast and on this channel in previous episodes. Coming out of the bye week and after the Eagles captains went to the coaches and said, hey, we need to commit to the run more, that number has just greatly increased. And then you look at this Rams defense, and they have the 7th highest run rate against. They play with a lot of too high safety structures, and they have a stacked box rate that is 15% below the league average. So they do kind of invite you to run the ball. Since this is projected to be a closer game, we should look at Saquon's rushing attempts. In close games, Saquon is getting a lot more carries. He currently has a 75% carry share on non-designed quarterback runs. But Saquon didn't play in the fourth quarter in 3 games this season. So when we take those games out and look at all the games in where Saquon had to play through the fourth quarter, his carry share is 85.7% in all those games. So with the Eagles projected to win as well, that does lead to some more carries for the winning team, generally as they're trying to run out the clock. But either way, I'm projecting Saquon for 24.7 carries, so I'm taking the over on his rushing attempts. Now looking at our second bet, we're looking at Kyren Williams under 74.5 rushing yards. This one is really a play on what the Eagles' strength is versus what the Rams really like to do on the ground. The Rams have the 4th highest run rate on runs between the tackle, but they're just 26th in yards per carry on those runs. The Eagles' defense, on the other hand, is 8th in yards per carry allowed on runs between the tackles. Now, if you look at their numbers coming out of their bye week after week 5, if you take those numbers, they would rank 5th since the bye week. And when we look additionally at this Eagles defense since the bye week, they're 4th in yards per carry allowed on runs. And when you remove quarterback scrambles and just look at the designed rush attempts, they're 3rd in yards per carry allowed on designed runs. In addition to that, we're not really expecting many explosive runs, and explosive runs can really take away and eat into the under, right? So we're not expecting many explosive runs. Kyren Williams is currently 60th out of the 74 qualifying running backs in explosive run rate. When you look at this Eagles defense, they're 11th in explosive run rate allowed. But when you look at this team after the bye week, that number would be 3rd. So we're not expecting many explosive runs that can really eat into the rushing total there. So looking at this game, we're also projecting for a higher pass rate just in general. This Rams offense, because they're not that good at running the ball, there are times where they have to go away from it. And when you look at when teams really need to win, they're going to take the path of least resistance. The Rams throw at the 7th highest rate in the NFL, and the Eagles defense has been thrown against at the 10th highest rate in the NFL. So I do expect the Rams are going to run it a little bit lower than their league average, than their season average. And I think this pairs well with taking Kyren Williams over on 2.5 receptions as well. We've talked about this in previous episodes that when teams can't run the ball very well, they generally turn to throwing the ball to their running backs as an extension of the pass game. I think that will probably be the case here as well. And I believe the Eagles are 6th or they're 6th or 9th. I didn't put that in the notes, but they're 6th or 9th in targets per game to running backs. And one additional point, the Eagles have allowed 3 running backs to go over this number all season. All 3 of those backs came in weeks 1, 2, and 3, all before the bye week. So I think this should be a game where Kyren Williams rushes below his number. And here's the thing, I would shop this number around because I saw numbers this morning as high as 79.5 on ESPN bets. So if you see a 79.5 out there, I would take the under on that. Now, for our final best bet, we are looking at Dallas Goedert over 48.5 receiving yards. This line opened at 41.5 and it moved significantly, especially with the Devontae Smith news. With Devontae Smith being out, we are projecting for an increased target share for Dallas Goedert. In games with AJ, Devontae, and Goedert healthy, Goedert was around 17.5% targets per route run. That was 21% with AJ Brown out. Now, there really isn't much numbers you can look at with Devontae Smith out. He's missed very few games in his career. But generally what happens with the Eagles is their number one receiver sees an increase in their targets per route run. And then we also see an increase in whoever that second player is, whether that's Devontae or whether that's Goedert. So I think Goedert is going to be a guy that benefits a lot from Devontae being out. In addition to that, the Rams run a high rate of zone coverage. The Rams are 27th in cover 1 rate this year among all defenses. Now, we've talked about this in the past. A.J. Brown gets the ball against man coverage. When Jalen knows that he has one-on-one, he goes to A.J. Brown more than anyone else, right? He has a 35.2% target per route run share against cover 1. Combined for cover 3, 2, and the different split field and quarters variations coverages, that's 23.5%. The ball tends to get spread out in zone coverage. A number of times the coverage and zone coverage is able to rotate and take away whoever the number 1 receiver is. So the ball tends to get spread out when you're facing a team that runs a lot of zone coverage. So we're expecting about another 3% increase in Goedert's target share just based on the coverages that the Rams like to run. The Rams defense is also 30th in yards per pass attempt allowed. So we're currently projecting Goedert for 62.1 yards. And again, I would shop around for the best line. This number is kind of all over the place depending on the book, and it's been fluctuating greatly since since Davante has been rolled out. So make sure you shop that line around as well. But that will be it for today's best bets. As always, good luck to everyone, and we will see you guys again next week.